Welcome. You have found your way here tonight to another quiet journey into the past. So take a moment, find yourself a comfortable position, allow your breathing to slow, and let us drift gently together into the winding pathways of history. This evening, we will be exploring the world of the Crusades, that long and complex series of holy wars that stretched from the late 11th century through to the 13th and beyond. But this is not the story of kings and popes, nor of grand victories etched in marble. Tonight we follow a different path, the quieter footsteps of the common soldier, the tired knights, the footsore peasants, the hopeful merchants, those who answered the call of the cross and faced hardship, hunger, betrayal, and strange new lands far from home. For many, this was not a story of glory, but of suffering, of long marshes, foul water, disease, and cold steel. And so, together, we will wander through the long road to Jerusalem, the broken promises, the siege of great cities, and the strange beliefs that shaped a crusader's life. There is much to see and much to feel. So, as you settle in, close your eyes if you wish, and imagine yourself centuries ago, standing on a muddy road beneath a pale dawn sky. The year is 1096, and the world is about to change. Chapter 1. The call to crusade, leaving home for God and glory. Imagine yourself in a small European village, sometime in the spring of 1096. The air is still cold with the last breath of winter, and the ground is soft beneath your boots. Life is simple, though never easy. You rise with the sun to tend to fields or sheep, or perhaps to hammer iron at the forge. News comes slowly here, carried by wandering friars, passing merchants, or the occasional noble entourage. But something has stirred the land, a great commotion, a summons like none before. From town to town, the story spreads. A great council of bishops and lords was held far away in the city of Clermont. There, Pope Urban II stood before the gathered crowd, calling all Christians to take up the cross, to journey east, to free the Holy Land from the infidel. And with that call, a great wave of fervor began to sweep across the land. Soon you would hear the clamor of preachers, fiery men of God, robed in coarse wool, their voices echoing through village squares. Deus vult, they cried. God wills it. A phrase passed from lips to ears, filling hearts with fire. For many, this call awakened hope, not just of religious salvation, but of earthly escape. For the younger sons of poor knights, those without inheritance, the crusade offered a chance for land, wealth, perhaps even titles. For peasants, it promised a path beyond toil. For merchants, new markets in distant lands. And for all, the promise of absolution, sins forgiven, a place in heaven assured. The air in your village soon changed. Friends and neighbors began to talk in hushed tones of joining the army of Christ, of leaving home, wives, children, all behind. Some crafted crude wooden crosses, others stitched the holy sign upon their cloaks. Packs were readied, oxen sold, debts hastily settled or left unpaid. Not all who heard the call rejoiced. Wives wept in doorways. Fathers begged sons to stay. The older folk, hardened by life's many sorrows, shook their heads in warning. The road is long. Many will not return. But the tide was strong, and few could resist its pull. By early summer, bands of would-be crusaders gathered. They were a motley host, knights gleaming in battered armor, peasants armed with little more than farm tools, monks clutching wooden staves. At dawn, you and your companions set out. The village behind you fades into the mist. Ahead lies an uncertain road, hundreds of miles across unfamiliar lands. But your heart is full, with faith, with hope, and with fear. The first days pass in relative ease. The countryside is still familiar, the food simple but known. The road takes you through forests, past the stone bridges, along quiet rivers. Each night, the campfires dot the fields, voices murmuring prayers in the dark. But already, a subtle strain begins to show. Supplies run thinner than expected. Water, clean water, is harder to find. Rain turns the roads to mire. Your feet ache, blisters form, but there is no turning back. Ahead, word reaches your ears. Across the Rhine, the lands grow more wild, the people more wary. And beyond that, the long, daunting journey across foreign kingdoms. Hungary, the Balkans, and at last the lands of Byzantium. But for now, you march on one foot in front of the other, driven by a strange mix of purpose and uncertainty. And so the days blend into weeks, the rhythm of life now reduced to the steady beat of fudging feet and the rattle of carts. You begin to notice the small changes, leather straps wearing thin, companions walking with a growing stoop, once bold songs giving way to quiet murmurs. Still, the band presses forward, one village after another. Soon the borders of the Holy Roman Empire are left behind. The fields give way to dense forests, and the speech of the people begins to shift. In the unfamiliar towns of Hungary and Croatia, wary eyes greet you. Though allied in faith, they are cautious, for too often the passing bands of crusaders bring trouble. Unpaid debts, pilfered food, tempers flaring after too much wine. Tensions mount. Some lords along the way demand tolls. Others close their gates entirely. You see disputes arise between knights and peasants, between noblemen and merchants. The discipline of the early days begins to fray. Yet even in this growing unease, moments of wonder appear. You pass ancient ruins, crumbling stone walls overgrown with ivy, the relics of forgotten peoples. You cross great rivers on shaky wooden ferries, gazing in awe at the vastness of the lands beyond. As the weeks stretch into months, the deeper hardships emerge. Food is scarce. The land can barely support so many mouths. Game is hunted out. Villages flee at the sight of the oncoming horde. You eat what you can, coarse bread, roots, the occasional tough strip of salted meat. Illness, too, becomes a constant companion. The simplest wound, left untended, festers quickly. Water drawn from stagnant pools brings sickness. Coughs spread through the ranks. Fever claims more than a few. At night, as you huddle beneath a thin blanket, the coughing echoes in the dark. And then comes the long-awaited sight, the spires and walls of Constantinople. Byzantium, the great city of the East. Glittering domes rise above the sea. For many in your band, it is the first time seeing such splendor. The wealth of the Eastern Empire laid before the eyes of rough men from the forests of Europe. Yet awe soon gives way to unease. The emperor, Alexius Komnenos, though bound to you by faith, regards your ragged army with wary distrust. He knows too well the dangers of an undisciplined host. Negotiations follow. Oaths are sworn reluctantly. Supplies are doled out with care. Some knights bristle at the demands of fealty. Others eye the riches of the city with thinly veiled hunger. After days of waiting, your band ferries across the Bosporus into Asia Minor. Now, truly you stand upon foreign soil, the ancient lands of Anatolia. The air here smells different. Dry winds from distant deserts. Strange spices wafting from unseen markets. But the land is harsh. The sun beats down mercilessly. The roads are little more than rocky tracks. The villages sparse, the people wary. Water again becomes precious. And from the hills, rumors drift of Turkish horsemen, swift and deadly, of ambushes in the narrow passes. Still, you march on, driven by the promise of Jerusalem, by faith, and by the deep stubbornness that has carried you this far. Friendships form among the weary. Stories are shared by flickering firelight, of home, of the life left behind, of hopes for what lies ahead. And always in the distance, the road stretches on. The Holy Land is still far away. The true hardships of the crusade have only just begun. Chapter 2. Marching to Jerusalem, hunger, disease. In the endless road, you now find yourself deep in the lands of Asia Minor, a landscape both beautiful and unforgiving. The sun hangs low in a wide sky, its heat unrelenting. The road before you twists through dry, stony hills. Sparse trees offer little shade. Dust rises with each weary footfall, coating your mouth, your throat, your clothing. The thrill of arrival in Constantinople fades quickly. What lies ahead is a journey far longer, harder than most imagined. You march with thousands, knights, footmen, cooks, merchants, but the land cannot sustain so many. Water is scarce. Springs once marked on old maps have run dry. Wells, when found, are shallow and brackish. You learn to ration each sip, to cherish the coolness of a single drop upon cracked lips. Food proves no easier to find. The fertile fields of Europe are a distant memory. Here the soil is thin, the villagers poor, the people wary. What little grain they hold is hidden from your grasp. Foraging yields bitter roots and occasional berries. The hardtack biscuits carried from the west grow moldy, infested with worms. You begin to hear of the Turkish horsemen, light, swift, deadly. Scouts disappear, lone travelers vanish without a trace. Some nights, arrows whistle into camp from the darkness, sowing panic. Fires are kept low, watches are doubled. Sleep comes only in snatches. The road grows longer with each step. Blisters turn to open sores. Feet wrapped in rags offer scant protection. Leather boots wear through. The pace slows. The weak fall behind. Some vanish into the wild, lost to exhaustion or despair. Among the ranks, the first sickness takes hold. Coughs echo in the dawn. Men stagger beneath fevers, faces flushed. There is little help to be had. The few priests and monks can offer only prayer, a whispered blessing, a drop of oil upon the brow. The dead are buried hastily, shallow graves marked with simple wooden crosses. Despite these hardships, there is a strange rhythm to the march. Day upon day, the same patterns unfold. Waking before first light, sharing thin rations, packing what few possessions remain, and falling into line beneath the banners. The creak of wagon wheels, the jangle of bridles, the soft murmur of prayer, these become the sounds of your world. Along the way, bonds form. Fellow soldiers share what little they have, a strip of dried meat, a sip of wine, a tale of home. Laughter, though rare, still echoes through the camp. Even amid suffering, the human spirit endures. Yet for every moment of camaraderie, there are darker scenes. Quarrels erupt over food or water. Fights break out between knights and commoners. Some desert, stealing away in the night. The weight of the journey bears heavily on all. And still, the road stretches on, toward Antioch, toward Jerusalem, though neither is yet in sight. The horizon remains empty, save for the endless dust and sky. Each sunrise brings both hope and dread for what lies ahead. And so the weary procession moves forward day after day. The landscape changes subtly. Rolling hills give way to rocky plains where the wind whispers through dry grasses. The pale bones of fallen animals litter the path, mute reminders of the harshness of this land. The ranks grow thinner. Some have fallen to illness, others to Turkish raids, others still simply lost to exhaustion. The once proud banners of great lords hang tattered. Armor rusts beneath layers of sweat and dust. The gleam of the Crusades' early promise fades, replaced by grim determination. You pass through desolate villages, their streets empty, doors barred. The locals fear the passing horde, and with reason. More than a few desperate crusaders turn to looting. What little can be taken, grain stores, goats, wine, is seized. And when resistance comes, it is met with cold steel. The line between holy war and brutal survival begins to blur. Still, the road demands progress. You march, not just for glory, but now for life. The further you go, the more treacherous it becomes to turn back. Behind you lies scarcity and danger. Ahead, unknown trials, but also the faint hope of Jerusalem. Word spreads that the great Turkish warlord Tiljarson is gathering forces. Fear prickles through the ranks. Veterans speak in low voices of the Seljuk horse archers, swift riders who strike and vanish like shadows. Your commanders caution vigilance. Scouts are sent ahead. Outriders patrol the flanks. Yet ambushes still come. One morning, as you crest a narrow pass, arrows rain from unseen heights. Chaos erupts. Men dive for cover, horses scream and bolt. When the assault ends, bodies lie scattered upon the stones. It is a grim reminder. Here, even the road itself is an enemy. And yet, the march continues. The Crusaders adapt, becoming leaner and harder. They learn to travel lighter, to fight in unfamiliar terrain. Some barter with local guides, learning hidden paths. Others a bits of Eastern garb, scarves to guard against the sun, loose tunics to ease the march. Yet hunger gnaws constantly. The flesh shrinks upon your bones. Dreams of feasting turn bitter. The weak collapse, left behind or carried by comrades. Priests speak of testing the soul, of suffering as a path to grace, but such words grow hollow when the belly aches, when the throat burns with thirst. There are moments, though, when the beauty of this strange land offers pause. At dawn, the rising sun bathes the hills in gold. Wildflowers bloom amid the rocks. In the cool of evening, stars blanket the heavens in a vast, glittering sea. These quiet scenes linger in the mind, reminders that even amidst hardship, the world holds its wonders. Then news arrives. Antioch draws near, a mighty city of towering walls and ancient fame. The lords convene councils beneath battered tents. Strategies are whispered. The hope of siege and victory stirs tired hearts. But even this hope is tempered with dread. The march to Antioch will not be easy. And what awaits there, no man can truly know. You shoulder your pack once more and take another step toward destiny. Chapter 3. Pay, Loot, and Betrayal. The real motivations of a crusader. You rise with the dawn. The camp stirs slowly. Across the scattered tents, men rub tired eyes, strap on worn armor, and ready themselves for another day on the march. The promise of Jerusalem remains a distant hope, but among the ranks, quieter motives take root. No longer is the talk only of salvation and glory. Now, more and more, men speak of gold, of spoils, of what may be claimed at the journey's end. When the call for crusade first sounded, the motives were many. For some, true faith drove them forward. For others, the church's promise of absolution, the clearing of debts, and the wiping of sins provided a powerful lure. Yet for many, especially among the younger sons of nobles, merchants and free warriors, the hope of fortune gleamed brightest. Land was scarce in Europe. Titles and wealth flowed through the hands of elder sons. For those with little to inherit, the crusade offered a rare chance to carve out riches in new lands. Rumors flowed through the camps. Antioch, it was said, was a city of great wealth. Gold, silks, spices, and precious relics awaited those strong enough to take them. Knights dreamed of castles in foreign lands. Foot soldiers whispered of chests filled with coin, of fine weapons and gleaming armor seized from the fallen. Even humble pilgrims, traveling with little more than faith and a staff, began to imagine returning home with exotic goods, the envy of their neighbors. Yet, alongside these hopes, tensions simmered. Promises made by distant nobles or the Pope himself began to feel hollow. Supplies remained scarce, yet the demands of the lords grew. Common soldiers found themselves pressed into service without reward. Merchants watched as their wares were seized in the name of crusade. Bargains struck in Europe unraveled in the heat of the eastern sun. Among the lords themselves, rivalry sharpened. Each sought to outshine the others, to claim the lion's share of whatever spoils might be won. Alliances, once sworn in the spirit of brotherhood, began to fray. Quarrels broke out over matters large and small, over leadership, over provisions, over rights to future conquests. In the shadows of a crusade, betrayal took root. As the army moved ever closer to Antioch, news arrived of rival forces ahead. Other crusading bands, lesser lords with their own ambitions, had struck deals with local rulers. Some had already begun to claim villages for themselves, hoarding food and plunder. Jealousy and resentment stirred in the hearts of your companions. Whispers filled the night air. Who could be trusted? Which promises would hold when steel met steel at the city walls? Within the ranks, this uncertainty bred desperation. Some knights began raiding smaller settlements along the march, ignoring orders from their commanders. Pilgrims abandoned their piety, seizing what they could from the helpless. Once noble ideals gave way to the raw hunger for survival and wealth. And yet, amidst this growing chaos, the march continued. The banner still flew. The vision of Jerusalem remained, distant but undimmed. For every man who wavered, another pressed forward, driven by ambition, by hope, or by the simple refusal to turn back after so many miles. At night, by the faint glow of dwindling campfires, the men spoke in low voices. What would Antioch bring? Riches beyond measure? A bitter fight with rivals? Or perhaps nothing but further hardship, no one could say. But all knew that at dawn the march would resume, and with each step the stakes would only grow higher. The endless road stretched onward beneath the silent stars. The march toward Antioch continued beneath a cloud of suspicion. Among the great lords, mistrust had become a constant presence. Each leader eyed the others, weighing alliances, considering future spoils, wondering who might seize more than their share once the city fell. The banners of rival houses fluttered in the breeze, each a symbol not just of unity in the crusade, but of competing ambition. For the common soldiers, the air grew heavy with rumors. Some spoke of secret pacts between knights and local warlords. Others claimed that certain lords planned to hold Antioch for themselves, defying any order to march further toward Jerusalem. Every new piece of gossip added to the unease that rippled through the ranks. The commanders, sensing the growing unrest, issued strict orders. Looting was forbidden, discipline must be maintained, but words alone held little power over hunger and desperation. Many soldiers had left home with little more than the clothes on their backs and the promise of plunder to sustain them. Now, after months of marching, hunger gnawed at their bellies and greed clouded their thoughts. Disputes over food became more frequent. Fights broke out in the supply trains. In the quiet hours of the night, supplies vanished from guarded stores, taken by unseen hands. What had begun as a holy pilgrimage was becoming a battle for survival, not just against the enemy, but among the crusaders themselves. The closer they drew to Antioch, the clearer it became that this siege would be unlike any faced before. The city's walls were mighty, its defenders well prepared. No quick victory awaited the crusaders. The prospect of a long siege deepened the hunger for loot. Every soldier imagined the riches that must lie behind those walls. Every knight pictured the lands that might be claimed. The lords convened councils in hastily raised pavilions. Tempers flared as plans were debated. Who would lead the siege? Who would claim the richest quarters of the city when it fell? Old alliances threatened to break apart. New schemes were whispered behind closed flaps. Trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered on the long road to war. Yet for all this strife, the army pressed on. A strange determination gripped the host. No one wished to falter now, with so much effort already spent. To turn back meant shame and ruin. To press forward meant hardship, but also the faint hope of triumph. In the ranks, soldiers steeled themselves for what lay ahead. They sharpened blades, mended worn armor, and counted the dwindling coins in their purses. The thought of Antioch, of its fabled wealth, filled their dreams and haunted their waking hours. The road grew harder still. Supplies ran thin. Horses faltered. Men grew gaunt, eyes hollow with exhaustion. Yet no one wished to speak of defeat. The crusade had become a test of endurance as much as of faith. One evening, as the army made camp upon a windswept plain, word spread that the walls of Antioch had been sighted in the distance. A ripple passed through the host. The goal was near, yet with that hope came dread. All knew that many would die before those gates yielded. Beneath the stars, soldiers whispered of what was to come. Some prayed for victory. Others prayed for fortune. And some, hardened by the long march, thought only of what they might seize for themselves when the walls finally fell. Morning would bring the first steps of the siege. In the quiet darkness, each man lay with his own thoughts, caught between hope and fear. Chapter 4. The Siege of Antioch. Survival against all odds. The morning sun rose over the plains of Antioch, casting long shadows across the vast host encamped before its walls. You awake to the sound of horns, of men shouting orders, of the clatter of arms being readied. Before you, the great city stands proud and defiant. Its stone walls, thick and towering, stretch across the horizon. Beyond them, the gleam of tiled roofs and soaring minarets promises both riches and danger. Antioch is no ordinary city. It is a fortress ancient and well defended. The Crusader leaders gather, studying worn maps, debating the best approach. Yet all know this will not be an easy conquest. The walls are too strong for a swift assault. The gates are heavily guarded. The defenders well supplied. And so begins the long siege. The army settles in, establishing camps around the city. Tents spring up in uneven rows. Wooden palisades are hastily constructed. Patrols scout the surrounding lands, seeking any advantage. For the soldiers, life settles into a grim routine. Days are spent digging trenches, building siege engines, maintaining watch. Nights are restless, filled with the sounds of distant drums from within the city and the murmured prayers of comrades. Food grows scarce. The land around Antioch has been stripped bare by the defenders. Foraging yields little. What few supplies remain must be carefully rationed. Each man receives a meager portion, barely enough to sustain the body for the labor ahead. Hunger gnaws at the spirit. Some grow desperate, trading armor or weapons for a loaf of bread, a scrap of dried meat. Disease takes hold in the crowded camps. The sick lie huddled beneath thin blankets. Coughs echo through the night air. There are few healers, and their remedies are crude. The weak fade quickly, their bodies carried beyond the camp, buried in shallow graves. The priests offer what comfort they can, but their words ring hollow to those gripped by fever or racked with pain. Despite these hardships, the siege continues. The soldiers labor on, driven by the faint hope of victory. Siege towers and battering rams take shape beneath the watchful eyes of the enemy. Skirmishes are up near the walls, arrows raining from above. Many fall, struck down before even reaching the gates. Within the city, the defenders remain resolute. They hurl insults and stones. At night, torches blaze upon the battlements. The Crusaders watch, weary but determined. The weeks stretch into months. The siege becomes a battle of endurance. Among the leaders, tempers fray, accusations fly. Some lords speak of retreat, others of pressing the attack. Promises made at the outset of the crusade seem distant now. Rivalries simmer beneath the surface, trust is a fragile thing. For the common soldier, each day is a test. Hunger, sickness, and fear weigh heavily. Yet still they endure, drawing strength from one another. Small acts of kindness, a shared meal, a whispered prayer, help sustain the spirit. The dream of Jerusalem remains, faint but unbroken. As winter approaches, the cold seeps into the bones. Fires burn low. The wind howls through the camps. Snow dusts the ground. The suffering deepens, yet no one turns back. To abandon the siege would mean disgrace, the loss of all that has been endured. The great walls of Antioch stand firm. The defenders show no sign of weakness, and yet, among the Crusaders, a quiet resolve builds. They will not be broken. The siege will continue. Victory, if it comes, must be earned through hardship, through sacrifice. The days ahead promise only greater trials. But for now, beneath the gray sky, the soldiers of the crusade prepare for whatever may come. The days of the siege grind on, one much like the next. The camps encircling Antioch have grown ragged, the once proud banners faded and torn. Men's faces are gone, their eyes sunken with fatigue. The cold of winter seeps into every joint, every sinew. Yet the city walls remain unbroken, the defenders steadfast behind their stone fortifications. Each morning begins with the same dull ritual. Fires are coaxed to life, meager rations are distributed, and the soldiers prepare for another day of toil. The great siege engines inch slowly closer, though progress comes at great cost. Defenders atop the walls unleash volleys of arrows and hurled stones. The air often fills with a deadly rain, forcing many to take cover behind crude barricades. Despite the danger, work must continue. Rams and towers are repaired under cover of darkness. Trenches creep closer to the base of the walls. Scouts scour the surrounding countryside for food, yet the land has been stripped bare. Hunger bites deeper with each passing day. Men grow thin, their strength failing. Some collapse from exhaustion, unable to rise again. Illness spreads unchecked. Dysentery, fever, and other ailments run rampant through the camps. The stench of sickness hangs in the air. Makeshift hospitals overflow, their grim wards filled with the dying. The priests offer what comfort they can, but no words can stem the tide of death. Each morning, more bodies are borne to hastily dug graves. Morale falters. The grand visions of glory and riches have long since faded. Now, each man fights simply to survive. Yet amidst this despair, strange rumors begin to circulate. Some speak of visions granted to holy men, promises of divine favor if the siege continues. Others claim that traitors within Antioch might soon open the gates. Among the leadership, these whispers take hold. A fragile hope stirs. Secret negotiations are begun with discontented factions inside the city. Bribes are offered, alliances forged in the shadows. The Crusader commanders know that time is their enemy. Without a swift breakthrough, the army may soon wither away. One bitter night, a signal flares from the city. Word spreads swiftly through the camp. A gate may soon be opened. The soldiers, though weak and starving, ready themselves. Weapons are sharpened, prayers whispered. For many, it is a final act of defiance against the misery that has consumed them. When the appointed hour comes, a small band of knights and men-at-arms moves silently through the darkness. Guided by secret allies within the city, they reach one of the lesser gates. With trembling hands, they push it open. The long-awaited breach is at hand. What follows is chaos. The Crusaders pour into Antioch, driven by desperation. Fighting erupts in the narrow streets. The defenders, though brave, are caught off guard. The battle is fierce, brutal, yet slowly the balance shifts. The Crusaders gain ground. The city, at last, begins to fall. When dawn breaks, the banners of the crusade flutter atop the walls of Antioch. Victory has been won, though at terrible cost. The survivors are few, their strength nearly spent. The city lies battered, its riches less than hoped. Yet for those who remain, it is a triumph born of endurance, of sheer will. In the days that follow, the soldiers search for what spoils they can. Food is found at last, precious and rare. The wounded are tended as best as possible. The dead are mourned. A fragile peace settles over the conquered city. But the journey is far from over. Jerusalem still lies ahead, many miles beyond. The road will demand yet more sacrifice. Yet for now, in the cold dawn, the Crusaders rest. They have survived Antioch. The march will continue. Chapter 5. The Leper King and Holy Relics. Strange beliefs of the Crusader states with the taking of Antioch behind you. The journey resumes, though the path ahead remains uncertain. The march to Jerusalem will take many more months. For now, the army rests, repairs its wounds, and regathers its strength. In the captured city, strange stories soon begin to circulate, tales of wonders and relics, of sacred objects said to grant divine favor. Throughout the Crusader camps, relics hold a powerful sway. Even the most battle-hardened knight may be found kneeling before a splinter of the true cross, a vial of holy oil, or a saint's bone. These objects, believed to channel the power of the divine, inspire hope and courage amid the hardships of war. Priests and monks display such treasures with reverence. Long lines of weary soldiers gather to touch the relics, to pray for protection, for healing, or for victory in the battles yet to come. In this new world of the East, unfamiliar wonders and terrors abound. The Crusaders speak in awe of ancient churches, of relics hidden in secret vaults, of sacred sites untouched for centuries. Pilgrimages within the cities become common. Even as the siege continues around them, men steal moments to kneel at ancient altars, their voices rising in whispered prayers. Amidst these devotions, tales of the Leper King begin to spread. Baldwin IV of Jerusalem, a ruler both admired and pitied, is known throughout the Crusader states. Struck by leprosy from a young age, his body bears the marks of the disease. His face, often hidden behind a veil, and his hands wrapped in cloth, serve as a constant reminder of human frailty. Yet, despite his affliction, Baldwin leads with wisdom and strength. Many view him as touched by the divine, chosen to bear this burden for a greater purpose. Knights and commoners alike speak of Baldwin's piety, of the relics he guards within the holy city, of his unwavering resolve. His presence offers both inspiration and a grim reflection. In his suffering, the Crusaders see both the cost of their quest and the depths of their own faith. Superstition mingles with belief. Men wear charms of bone or stone, etched with prayers. Others carry small crosses, blessed by monks, tied about the neck. In the darkness of the eastern nights, when strange stars wheel above unfamiliar lands, such tokens bring comfort, a fragile shield against fear. The line between faith and myth blurs. Tales of visions spread through the ranks. Some claim to have seen ghostly figures on the battlefield, saints riding among the living. Others speak of miraculous escapes from death, of divine light shining through the storm. Whether true or born of hunger and exhaustion, these stories take hold. They pass from campfire to campfire, weaving a tapestry of belief that binds the weary host together. Relics take on new importance with each passing day. Lords seek them out, hoping to secure divine favor. Pilgrims treasure them as proof of their devotion. Traders profit as well, offering questionable relics for high prices. In this world of hardship and hope, even a simple shard of wood, claimed to be from the Holy Cross, can command a fortune. As the Crusaders prepare to march once more, relics are carefully packed among their scant belongings. They will be carried into battle, clutched in desperate hands, raised high amid the clash of swords. For many, they are more than objects. They are a source of strength, a beacon of hope in a world fraught with suffering. And so the march continues, driven by faith, by superstition, by the strange and powerful beliefs that shape the Crusader states. Ahead lies Jerusalem, a city of legend and longing. What wonders, what terrors await within its ancient walls, no one yet knows. As the Crusaders press further into the Levant, their lives become more deeply entwined with the strange and ancient beliefs of the land. The Holy Land is steeped in legend, and for many among the army, every stone and stream carries a sense of sacred purpose. The words of priests and monks take on greater weight, their sermons filled with tales of martyrs, saints, and ancient miracles. Within the courts of the Crusader lords, relics are proudly displayed. A splinter of wood, a fragment of cloth, a silver nail, each believed to hold some connection to the divine. Nobles compete to collect such treasures, both as symbols of piety and as marks of status. To possess a renowned relic is to command respect, to inspire loyalty among the faithful, and perhaps to invite the favor of heaven upon one's house. The presence of Baldwin, the leper king, casts a long shadow across these lands. His illness is a visible sign of human frailty, yet his leadership remains unwavering. Despite the ravages of disease, Baldwin holds his court with dignity. His decisions shape the fate of the Crusader states, his wisdom earning the admiration of allies and the grudging respect of foes. Yet behind closed doors, whispers abound. Some see Baldwin's affliction as a divine test, a trial that mirrors the suffering of Christ. Others fear that the king's days are numbered, that without his steady hand, the fragile unity of the Crusader lords may crumble. Ambition stirs in the hearts of many, though none dare speak openly while Baldwin yet lives. Superstitions flourish in these uncertain times. The common soldiers place great faith in charms and relics, in the blessings of wandering monks. Simple rituals are observed before battle, prayers murmured to ward off misfortune. The boundary between sacred truth and folk belief is thin, often blurred. A well-timed omen, a dream interpreted by a trusted priest, can sway the mood of an entire host. Among the knights, tales of relic-driven victories circulate. They speak of banners that turned the tide of battle, of saintly images that shielded warriors from harm. Such stories grow with each telling, offering comfort amid the harsh realities of war. Even hardened veterans, though they scoff in the light of day, often find themselves clutching a relic or whispering a prayer when darkness falls. Merchants, ever attuned to the desires of their customers, adapt quickly. The markets of the Crusader cities teem with relics, both true and false. Pilgrims and warriors alike pay dearly for these tokens, seeking protection, favor, or the means to impress peers. The line between commerce and devotion becomes ever thinner. As the army nears Jerusalem, anticipation builds. The city's sacred relics are famed throughout Christendom. To stand before them, to kneel at the holy sites is the dream of many who began this long journey. Yet the road remains fraught with peril. The strength of faith, the power of relics, and the resolve of weary men must all be tested once more. In the quiet moments before the next march, Soldiers gaze upon their cherished tokens, draw strength from their presence, and steel themselves for what lies ahead. The journey is not yet done, but with relic in hand and belief in heart, they move forward once more, drawn inexorably toward the holy city. Chapter 6. Battlefields of Blood. The butchery of siege warfare, the march to Jerusalem, brings the Crusaders through lands scarred by war. Villages lie abandoned, their fields untended. The signs of past battles are everywhere, from shattered walls to silent grave mounds. The army, though weary, presses onward, each step a reminder that greater trials lie ahead. Siege warfare awaits, and with it, a test of endurance and resolve unlike any faced before. The art of siege is both brutal and slow. When an enemy city refuses to yield, when its walls stand tall and gates remain barred, the only path to victory is through relentless pressure. Engineers labored to construct great machines, towers of timber and iron, battering rams, catapults capable of hurling stones across great distances. These engines of war require immense effort to build and even greater courage to bring to the enemy's walls. For the common soldier, life during a siege is a cycle of labor and peril. Days begin with the creak of ropes, the thud of mallets driving stakes, the shouted orders of captains directing men to haul timber or dig trenches. The enemy above watches always. Arrows and stones rain down from the battlements. At any moment, a man may fall struck without warning, yet the work continues. Walls must be approached, undermined, assaulted. Sappers dig tunnels beneath stone foundations, hoping to weaken them. When a section collapses, soldiers rush forward, seeking to breach the defenses before the enemy can recover. Such moments are fierce and deadly. The clash of steel, the cries of wounded men, the desperate struggle for every foot of ground. Within the besieging army, food remains scarce. Supplies dwindle quickly. The land cannot support so many mouths. Disease spreads in the cramped but unsanitary camps. The stench of waste and unwashed bodies fills the air. Death is a constant companion. Each morning brings new losses. Each evening, fewer men return to their tents. Among the leaders, difficult decisions must be made. Who will lead the next assault? Which units will hold the line? Rivalries and pride are set aside, for all know that only through unity can the city be taken. Yet beneath the surface, old tensions remain. Victories bring honor and the promise of spoils. Failure invites shame and blame. As the siege drags on, both sides suffer. Within the city, defenders face their own hardships. Supplies run low, morale falters. They watch as siege engines draw ever closer, as breaches appear in the once strong walls. Fear spreads among the inhabitants. Still, they fight on, for surrender may bring worse than death. For the Crusaders, each successful breach is a moment of terrible triumph. The storming of a city is chaotic, violent. Narrow streets become killing grounds. Houses burn. The clash of arms echoes through stone corridors. In the heat of battle, discipline often falters. Looting, once forbidden, becomes rampant. The thirst for victory overwhelms restraint. Yet even amid the bloodshed, moments of humanity remain. Some soldiers protect the innocent. Others aid the wounded, risking their lives amid the chaos. The horrors of siege warfare test the soul as much as the body. As the dust settles and the city falls, the survivors emerge, battered but victorious. The price of conquest is high, paid in blood and sorrow. The scars of such battles linger long after the fighting ends. In the quiet that follows, the soldiers tend to their wounds, bury their dead, and reflect on the path that brought them here. The march continues, for Jerusalem awaits. But each man carries with him the memory of the butchery of siege warfare, a grim chapter in a long crusade. In the aftermath of a siege, the battlefield lies silent. yet the echoes of conflict linger in every broken stone and abandoned weapon. The Crusaders move through streets choked with debris, their footsteps soft against the dust of ruin. For many, there is little time to rest. The demands of survival persist even in victory. The fallen must be buried, a grim and endless task. Graves are dug beyond the city walls, shallow trenches to hold comrades lost in the assault. The priests perform what rites they can, their voices weary, their prayers mingling with the wind. For those who remain, life resumes with a new rhythm, shaped by both triumph and loss. Within the captured city, the work of rebuilding begins. Supplies are gathered, weapons repaired, defenses restored. The leaders hold council, their minds already turning to the next campaign. Jerusalem remains the ultimate prize, and the lessons of siege warfare weigh heavily on every decision. Each lord considers the needs of his men, the strength of his forces, the toll already paid. Among the common soldiers, stories of the siege pass from lip to lip. They speak of narrow escapes, of comrades fallen in the breach, of moments when courage held firm against despair. These tales bind the survivors together, a shared memory of suffering and endurance. In the quiet hours of the night, beneath starlit skies, such stories are told again and again, their details growing with each retelling. Yet not all memories bring comfort. The sights witnessed during the storming of a city, the cruelty of battle, the desperation of defenders and attackers alike, leave marks upon the soul. Some men grow withdrawn, their eyes haunted. Others turn to faith, seeking solace in prayer, in relics carried close to the heart. The horrors of siege warfare are not easily forgotten. In the days that follow, the army prepares to march once more. Weapons are sharpened, provisions gathered. The wounds of the past battle, both seen and unseen, must be borne forward. There is no time for lingering reflection. The road to Jerusalem calls, and each man knows that greater trials lie ahead. The leaders study their maps, plotting the route. Scouts are sent forth to learn the lay of the land. Messengers ride to distant allies, seeking support for the final push. Every decision is shaped by the hard-won knowledge of siege warfare, by the understanding that each city taken, each battle fought, brings new challenges. As the army moves out, the scars of the siege remain visible, banners repaired but still tattered, armor dulled by dust and blood, weary eyes that have seen too much. Yet beneath this weariness lies a core of determination. The Crusaders have endured, and they will endure again. The butchery of siege warfare has hardened them, prepared them for the trials to come. Along the road, new recruits join the ranks, drawn by tales of conquest and the hope of spoils. They listen eagerly to the veterans, absorbing every word, learning the harsh truths of war. The cycle continues, each generation of fighters shaped by the experience of those who came before. As the sun sets on another day of marching, the army camps beneath open skies. Fires flicker in the darkness, voices murmur in the night. The road to Jerusalem is long, the path uncertain. Yet the Crusaders press onward, their resolve forged in the crucible of battle, their eyes fixed on the distant goal. The butchery of siege warfare lies behind them, but its lessons will guide every step of the journey still to come. Chapter 7: Ghost Towns in Cursed Land, marching through haunted ruins, the long march toward. Jerusalem takes the Crusaders through lands marked by centuries of war and legend. The landscape is dotted with the remnants of ancient cities, once thriving, now silent. Crumbling walls, toppled columns, streets choked with weeds. These are the landmarks that greet the weary soldiers as they press onward. Among the ranks, tales abound of cursed places, of ghost towns where no bird sings, no animal stirs. Veterans speak in hushed tones of entire villages emptied overnight, of spectral figures glimpsed in the moonlight. Such stories, passed from campfire to campfire, take on a life of their own. Whether born of truth or the fevered imagination of men worn thin by hardship, they cling to the minds of all who hear them. The soldiers advance with caution through these forsaken places. Every creak of a broken door, every gust of wind through shattered windows sets nerves on edge. Superstitions flourish. Charms are tied to weapons, prayers whispered beneath breath. Even the most hardened warriors cast wary glances at the shadows that gather in ruined halls. Signs of past violence are everywhere. Bones lie scattered among the stones. Rusted blades protrude from collapsed barricades. The air itself feels heavy, thick with the memory of suffering. Each footstep stirs the dust of ages, raising faint echoes of forgotten voices. In some towns, strange markings adorn the walls, faded symbols whose meanings are lost to time. The priests offer explanations, weaving tales of ancient heresies, of divine punishment visited upon those who defied the will of God. Whether such judgments truly fell, or whether plague and famine alone emptied these places, none can say with certainty. As the army moves through these ghost towns, a somber mood settles over the host. Conversations grow quieter. Laughter fades. The march becomes a solemn procession, each man lost in his own thoughts. The weight of the unknown presses heavily on all. At night, the sense of unease deepens. The crackle of campfires seems louder in the stillness. Some claim to hear footsteps in the dark, to glimpse figures watching from ruined towers. Guards are doubled, weapons kept close at hand. Yet the true enemy remains unseen. A presence felt but never faced. Not all ruins are abandoned. In some places, a few ragged souls remain, survivors of long-forgotten conflicts. They watch the passing army with hollow eyes, offering no welcome. Their homes are little more than shells, their lives a daily struggle against despair. For the Crusaders, such sights are a grim reminder of what war leaves behind. Among the leadership, these haunted marches raise questions. Some lords urge haste, wishing to leave the cursed lands behind. Others caution patience, wary of ambush or unseen danger. The debates continue, but the march presses on, for the goal remains unchanged. Each mile brings new ruins, new tales of woe. The land itself seems weary, scarred by the passage of countless armies. The Crusaders tread carefully, their steps guided by both fear and faith. They know that beyond these ghost towns, greater challenges await. Yet they march on through cursed land and haunted ruins, drawn ever closer to Jerusalem. In the hearts of the soldiers, hope and dread walk hand in hand, companions on a journey through a land steeped in mystery and sorrow. As the Crusaders move deeper into the lands of ruin, the sense of isolation grows stronger. Villages appear, only to reveal empty streets and collapsed dwellings. Fields lie fallow, overgrown with weeds. Wells are dry or fouled. The world through which the army marches feels abandoned, untouched by the living. Stories of curses gain strength. Some believe that ancient sins have stained the soil, that the land itself rejects the presence of the Crusaders. Others whisper of pagan rites, of dark forces still lurking beneath the stones. Though the priests offer reassurances, leading prayers, and sprinkling holy water, fear lingers in every heart. Marching through these desolate places takes a toll. The men grow restless, their tempers frayed. Quarrels erupt over small matters. Superstitions run high. A shadow glimpsed in the corner of an eye, an unexpected noise at night, is enough to send ripples of unease through the camp. Sleep comes fitfully. Even the boldest knights find themselves waking often, their hands upon their swords. Among the ruins, small shrines are sometimes found, their origins unknown. Candles long since burned to stubs, offerings of bone and stone left upon cracked altars. Whether relics of old faiths or desperate pleas for protection, these sites add to the growing sense of otherworldliness. The Crusaders passed them by in silence, unwilling to disturb what may best be left alone. At times, the road itself vanishes, swallowed by the wild. Paths that once guided travelers now fade into thickets and stones. Scouts must forge new routes, cutting through tangled underbrush, crossing crumbling bridges. Progress slows. Each day brings fresh challenges. Yet, amidst this grim landscape, moments of beauty appear. Wildflowers bloom defiantly among the ruins. Birds sing in the clear dawn. A shaft of sunlight piercing a ruined chapel stirs memories of home, of life beyond war. These small wonders offer brief respite from the darkness that hangs over the march. The Crusaders press on, driven by necessity. Supplies are low, and turning back is not an option. Each man knows that Jerusalem lies ahead, that the trials of the cursed lands must be endured. The bonds among the soldiers strengthen. Shared hardship forges trust, a quiet camaraderie born of suffering and survival. Among the leaders, caution prevails. No one wishes to linger longer than necessary. Orders are given to maintain discipline, to keep to the main routes where possible. Yet the land does not easily yield its secrets. Detours are frequent. The march becomes a winding journey through forgotten places. Encounters with the few remaining inhabitants are rare. When they occur, the exchanges are brief and wary. These survivors speak of famine, of plague, of war without end. Their eyes hold the deep sadness. The Crusaders take what little they can, leaving coins in return, knowing that even silver cannot ease such wounds. As the army moves beyond the worst of the ruins, a sense of relief washes over the ranks. The cursed lands lie behind them. Ahead, though challenges remain, the path seems clear. Yet the memories of those haunted marches linger, etched into the minds of all who endured them. The Crusaders march onward, their spirits tempered by the journey. They have passed through ghost towns and cursed lands, through shadows and silence. The road to Jerusalem stretches before them, and with each step, they draw closer to their final goal. In the fading light of evening, the soldiers look to the horizon, their hearts filled with weary hope. Chapter 8, Templar Trials. Life inside the warrior monks as the Crusader states begin to take shape. New orders arise to defend them. Among these, none is more famed or feared than the Order of the Temple, the Templars. Formed in the aftermath of First Crusade, the Knights Templar dedicate their lives to the protection of pilgrims and the defense of the Holy Land. Bound by vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, they live a life apart from the ordinary soldier, a life of discipline and trial. Within the fortified halls of their commanderies, the Templars rise before dawn. The day begins with prayer, voices echoing in the stone chapel. Simple meals of bread, cheese, and watered wine follow. There's no room for luxury here. The rule of the order forbids excess. Their garments are plain, their quarters sparse. Each man owns little beyond his armor, his weapons, and his faith. Training occupies much of the day. Though sworn monks, the Templars are also warriors. Sword drills, horseback exercises, archery practice. These fill the hours. The demands of discipline are constant. A knight of the temple must be ready at all times, his body and mind honed for battle. Lapses are punished swiftly. Fines, loss of privileges, even expulsion await those who falter. Brotherhood lies at the heart of Templar life. The bonds between members are strong, forged through shared purpose and hardship. Meals are taken in silence, broken only by the reading of Scripture. Each man serves the order, not himself. Pride and personal ambition have no place within these walls. The Templars' role extends beyond combat. They act as escorts for pilgrims, guarding the dangerous roads that wind through the Holy Land. Their white mantles, marked with the red cross, inspire both fear and respect. To the faithful, they are protectors. To their enemies, they are a force to be reckoned with. Yet, life within the order is not without its burdens. The vows of chastity and obedience weigh heavily. The Templars live apart from family, from the comforts of home. Their lives are one of sacrifice, of endless vigilance. Temptations abound, but the rule is clear. A Templar must remain steadfast, his heart devoted solely to God and the order. The political landscape of the Crusader states adds further strain. The Templars must navigate a web of alliances and rivalries. Kings and lords seek their support, sometimes resent their power. The order walks a careful path, balancing loyalty to the church with the demands of survival in a land fraught with intrigue. Within the order, promotion is earned through merit and service. Leadership is a responsibility, not a prize. The Grand Master commands with the council of senior brothers, decisions made in council rather than by whim. This structure ensures stability even in times of crisis. When not engaged in battle or escort duties, the Templars devote themselves to spiritual life. Hours are spent in prayer, in contemplation. The writings of the church guide their actions. The sins of the flesh, the lure of wealth, these must be cast aside. Only through purity of heart can a Templar hope to serve faithfully. Despite their vows, the Templars wield great influence. Their network of commanderies spans the Holy Land and beyond. They administer lands, collect tithes, manage vast resources. Their wealth is not for personal gain, but for the service of the order and the greater cause of Christendom. As night falls, the brothers gather once more for prayer. The chapel is dim, the air thick with incense. In the silence, each man reflects on his purpose, on the trials faced, on the battles yet to come. The life of a Templar is hard, demanding, unrelenting. Yet for those who endure, it is a life of meaning, of unwavering devotion. As the months and years pass, the life of a Templar settles into a steady rhythm. Days begin and end with prayer, a constant reminder of the spiritual foundation upon which the order is built. Between these moments of devotion, the brothers train, patrol, and manage the affairs of the order. The demands never cease, yet the routine offers a measure of stability in an often chaotic world. The younger brothers, newly arrived, undergo rigorous instruction. They learn not only the arts of war, but the strict codes of conduct that define a Templar. Humility is taught alongside swordsmanship. A Templar must never boast of his deeds, never seek personal glory. All victories are credited to God and the order. Pride is a sin to be shunned. Among the seasoned brothers, the bonds of camaraderie deepen with time. Shared experiences in battle and hardship forge ties stronger than blood. Within the order, these bonds are a source of strength. In the field, a Templar can trust his fellow to stand firm, to fight without fear or hesitation. The discipline of the order extends beyond the battlefield. In dealings with the local populace, Templars are expected to act with fairness and restraint. Abuse of power is forbidden. The Grand Master and his council take seriously any reports of misconduct. Though powerful, the order strives to uphold the principles of justice and mercy. In the broader world, the Templars serve as a symbol of Christian resolve. Pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land look to them for protection. Merchants seek their aid in safeguarding trade routes. Kings and princes petition their support in times of war. The red cross upon the white mantle commands respect throughout the region. Yet with power comes danger. Rival orders and secular lords sometimes view the Templars with suspicion or envy. Political intrigues swirl around them. The brothers must remain ever vigilant, their unity and discipline serving as their greatest defense. Within the fortified halls of the order, the treasury is carefully guarded. The wealth of the Templars, amassed through donations, rents, and the spoils of war, is managed with strict oversight. Every coin is accounted for, every expenditure approved by the council. The funds serve the needs of the order, the maintenance of fortresses, the care of the wounded, the support of the ongoing crusade. The spiritual life of the Templar remains central. Regular confession is required, penance given for any lapse. The chaplains of the order provide guidance, ensuring that the brothers remain steadfast in their faith. The temptations of the world are many, but through prayer and discipline, the Templars seek to remain pure of heart. As the years go by, some brothers rise through the ranks, taking on greater responsibilities. Others fall in battle, their names remembered in solemn services. The cycle continues, new recruits filling the gaps, the order enduring through the trials of time. In the quiet moments beneath the stars, the Templars reflect upon their calling. The path they have chosen is not an easy one. It demands sacrifice, unwavering commitment, and the constant denial of worldly desires. Yet it offers purpose, a place within a brotherhood devoted to a cause greater than any one man. With Jerusalem still contested, the need for the Templars remains strong. Their watch continues, their resolve unshaken. Through faith, discipline, and the bond of brotherhood, they stand ready for whatever challenges the future may hold. And so life within the warrior monks endures, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who have taken the vows of the temple. Chapter 9, Lost Templar Treasure. Legends of gold and secrets. As the fame of the Templars grows, so too do the stories that surround them. Among the most enduring are the legends of vast treasures hidden away by the order. Fortunes gathered over years of service in the Holy Land. These tales spread through the Crusader states and across Europe, whispered in markets and noble courts alike. It is true that the Templars hold great wealth. Donations from kings, nobles, and the faithful flow into their coffers. Their commanderies manage lands across Christendom. Their fleets carry goods along distant trade routes. Their treasuries contain coin, precious metals, and rare artifacts. Yet this wealth is not for personal gain. It funds the work of the order, the defense of the Holy Land, and the care of the brothers. Still, the mystery remains. Records are sparse, details deliberately hidden. The movements of Templar wealth are known only to a trusted few within the highest ranks. This secrecy, born of necessity, feeds the imagination of those outside the order. Stories of hidden vaults, of treasure buried beneath remote fortresses, of gold spirited away before an enemy's advance, grow with each telling. Among the soldiers of the Crusade, such tales offer a glimpse of hope. In the long marshes and bitter sieges, dreams of fortune provide comfort. A knight, weary from battle, may imagine one day discovering a lost Templar hoard. A common soldier, with little beyond his sword, might hope to stumble upon a hidden chamber filled with gleaming coins. Merchants and adventurers, too, are drawn to these legends. Some seek clues in old maps or cryptic writings. Others question aging veterans, hoping to glean some hint of truth. Many expeditions set out to search the ruins of former Templar strongholds, though few return with more than rumor and speculation. Within the order, such stories are met with quiet amusement. The brothers know the truth of their wealth, its purpose, its careful management. Yet they do not speak openly, for secrecy is their shield. To reveal too much would invite envy, perhaps even betrayal. Better to let the world wonder, to let the legends grow. In the Crusader cities, the mystery deepens. Fortresses rise with thick stone walls and hidden chambers. Vaults are secured with iron doors, their contents known only to a select few. Messages pass in coded language, transactions recorded in secret ledgers. The daily work of the order moves beneath the surface, unnoticed by most. The enemies of the Templars, both within and beyond the Crusader states, add their own layers to the legend. Accusations of greed, of hoarded gold, of dark rituals performed in secret vaults take root. These tales serve the ambitions of rival orders, of kings wary of the Templars' growing influence. For the common folk, the stories endure, a lost Templar treasure, hidden somewhere beneath the shifting sands of the Holy Land, buried within a forgotten crypt, locked away in a distant monastery. The possibilities are endless, the allure irresistible. As the crusade continues, as battles are fought and cities rise and fall, the legend of the Templar treasure grows ever larger. It becomes part of the fabric of the Crusader states, a tale passed from one generation to the next. Whether truth or myth, it holds a power of its own. And so the story persists, carried on the wind through the hills of the Holy Land, whispered in the corridors of castles, dreamt of by those who follow the long road of the crusade. Chapter 10: Strange Alliances. The politics of survival as the Crusader states expand and endure. The simple vision of a united Christian front begins to fade. The realities of survival in the Holy Land are far more complex than the early Crusaders imagined. Surrounded by powerful Muslim kingdoms, rival Christian factions, and ever-shifting alliances, the leaders of the Crusader states learn that politics, as much as piety, will determine their fate. In the great halls of Jerusalem, Antioch, and Tripoli, lords gather to plot strategy. Gone is the single-minded unity of the First Crusade. Now, each ruler guards his own interests, balancing loyalty to the Pope and distant monarchs with the pressing needs of the present. Food must be secured, borders defended, trade routes maintained. To achieve these goals, alliances must be made, even with unlikely partners. It is not uncommon for Crusader lords to negotiate truces with neighboring Muslim rulers. Envoys pass between courts, bearing gifts and offers of peace. A temporary alliance may grant access to water sources or allow safe passage through contested lands. In some cases, joint campaigns are even considered, pitting one Muslim faction against another. Such arrangements are born not of friendship, but of necessity. Among the rank-and-file Crusaders, these alliances provoke mixed feelings. Many came to the Holy Land with visions of righteous war, of clear battle lines between faiths. To see their leaders parley with Muslim emirs, to hear Arabic spoken within their halls, challenges these beliefs. Yet the needs of survival outweigh such concerns. Without these uneasy truces, the fragile Crusader states would quickly fall. The Muslim rulers, too, act from pragmatism. They recognize the strength of the Crusader fortresses, the skill of their knights. An alliance, however temporary, can secure their borders or weaken a rival. Gold and supplies flow between courts, agreements sealed with oaths that may last only as long as they serve mutual interest. Within this shifting landscape, betrayal is a constant threat. A truce made today may be broken tomorrow. Spies move freely, gathering intelligence, sowing discord. Every lord must weigh each alliance carefully, knowing that a single misstep could invite disaster. Trust is rare. Caution is a way of life. The Templars and other military orders navigate this world with particular care. Their vows bind them to the defense of Christendom, yet they too must engage in diplomacy. Their influence is considerable, and their leaders often act as mediators between rival factions. The politics of survival demand flexibility, even from those sworn to unyielding faith. In the marketplaces of the Crusader cities, the complexities of these alliances are visible. Merchants from across the region trade goods openly. Silks from Damascus, Spices from Cairo, rare metals from distant lands, all find their way into Christian and Muslim hands alike. Gold knows no creed. Commerce flourishes even as armies prepare for war. The common folk, both native and crusader, adapt to this reality. Friendships form across cultural lines. Artisans, farmers, and traders build lives amidst the uncertainty. While the lords plot and the knights prepare, the people simply strive to endure. As the crusader states grow older, the lessons of politics become ever more vital. Success depends not only on the strength of arms, but on the skill of negotiation, the forging of strange alliances. Survival in this land of shifting loyalties demands wisdom, patience, and a clear understanding of the fragile balance that holds peace in place. The leaders of the Crusader states walk a narrow path, guided by the knowledge that in the Holy Land, alliances are both shield and sword. Through them, kingdoms rise or fall, and the long struggle continues. As years pass in the Crusader states, alliances become ever more intricate. The web of relationships stretches across faiths and kingdoms, binding together an unlikely network of partners. The need for survival drives lords to form pacts with those they once called enemies, while rivalries among fellow Christians fracture any illusion of unity. In the courts of Jerusalem and Antioch, Muslim ambassadors are received with courtesy, their arrival marked by formal ceremony. They bring gifts of fine cloth, spices, and precious stones, tokens of goodwill that soften the sharp edges of old hatred. In return, Christian envoys travel to the courts of Muslim emirs, bearing letters sealed with wax, speaking in carefully chosen words of peace. Marriage alliances, too, emerge as a tool of diplomacy. Though rare and often controversial, unions between noble houses of different faiths occasionally occur, cementing fragile truces. More common are marriages arranged between Crusader lords and local Christian populations, forging ties that bridge cultural divides. These unions serve both practical and political ends, securing loyalty and easing tensions. Among the military orders, such alliances are approached with caution. The Templars and Hospitallers maintain strict discipline, wary of being drawn too deeply into the shifting sands of local politics. Yet even they cannot ignore the necessity of negotiation. Their leaders meet with Muslim commanders when the situation demands it, balancing piety with pragmatism. For the common soldiers, the world of high diplomacy remains distant. They see only the effects. One day, marching alongside former enemies, the next defending against surprise attack. Confusion and uncertainty mark their days. Yet in the quiet moments between battles, friendships sometimes form. Shared hardships bridge the gaps of language and belief. In the bustling markets, crusaders and locals trade goods, stories, and sometimes even laughter. The merchant guilds thrive in this atmosphere. They understand better than most that commerce flourishes in times of peace, however temporary. Their ships cross seas once barred by war. Their caravans win through contested territories under banners of neutrality. Gold flows freely, greasing the wheels of diplomacy. In the eyes of a merchant, profit outweighs creed. Yet beneath the surface, old hatreds remain. Fanatics on both sides decry these alliances, calling for purity of purpose, for holy war untainted by compromise. Their voices stir unrest, threaten to undo the fragile peace. The leaders of the Crusader states must tread carefully, balancing the demands of faith with the realities of rule. The Church itself grapples with these complexities. Papal legates remind the Crusader lords of their sacred duty, urging caution in their dealings with Muslim powers. Yet even Rome recognizes the challenges of governing in a land where survival often hinges on the strength of alliances. As the years unfold, some alliances endure, others crumble. Betrayals come swiftly, turning former friends into bitter foes. The cycle of diplomacy and conflict continues, shaping the destiny of the Crusader states. Those who master this game of politics prosper, while the unwary fall. In the end, the politics of survival demand constant vigilance. Every treaty is a risk, every promise a test of trust. The lords of the Crusader states learn to navigate this world with care, knowing that their lives and the fate of their kingdoms depend upon it. As the sun sets over the hills of the Holy Land, envoys ride beneath banners of truce, letters sealed and ready to be delivered. In distant chambers, lords and emirs plot their next moves, ever mindful of the delicate balance that holds the region together. The game continues, a dance of alliances and betrayals, as the crusade enters its next chapter. Chapter 11, Crusader Medicine, Bleeding, Amputation, and Folk Remedies. The life of a crusader is marked by hardship, and few hardships weigh heavier than injury and illness. Far from the skilled physicians of Europe's great cities, the soldiers of the Holy Land must rely on what limited medical knowledge can be found among the camps. The art of healing is crude at best, a mixture of ancient learning, folk remedies, and the ever-present hand of faith. When a man falls wounded in battle, the first response is swift but simple. Companions drag him from the field if they can, away from the clash of steel and the crush of men. In the makeshift infirmaries that spring up behind the lines, he is laid upon rough boards or bare earth. There the healers begin their grim work. The surgeons of the Crusader armies are often barbers by trade. Their skills learned through hard experience rather than formal study. Their instruments are few and basic. Knives, saws, cautery irons heated to glowing, strips of linen for binding wounds. Pain relief is scarce. A strong draught of wine may dull the senses, but little more. For many injuries, the only hope lies in amputation. A limb shattered by sword or arrow is quickly severe to prevent the spread of infection. The operation is brutal, performed with speed and strength. The wound is then cauterized with hot iron, sealing the flesh and a burst of smoke and searing pain. Survival depends on the resilience of the patient and the mercy of fate. Bloodletting remains a common practice. The physicians believe that many ailments stem from an imbalance of humors within the body. By drawing blood, they hope to restore harmony and health. Leeches are applied to the skin, or veins are opened with a blade. The dark stream collected in bowls. Whether this brings relief or further weakness varies with each case. Wounds are dressed with whatever materials can be found. Clean cloth is scarce. Often, old bandages are reused, washed in foul water, their contamination more harmful than helpful. Herbal poultices are applied, mixtures of sage, thyme, and other plants thought to possess healing powers. Prayers accompany each treatment, the voice of the priest as vital as the hand of the surgeon. Infection is a constant threat. The hot, dusty climate of the Holy Land breeds disease. A small cut can fester swiftly, spreading poison through the blood. Fever follows, then delirium. The sick are tended in dark tents or stone chambers, their groans echoing through the night. Some recover, their bodies strong enough to fight the sickness. Others fade, their lives slipping away beneath the watchful eyes of comrades. Disease strikes as fiercely as any sword. Dysentery, known as the bloody flux, ravages the camps, leaving men weakened and gaunt. Malaria brings chills and fever, sapping strength. Unknown fevers sweep through without warning, claiming lives by the dozen. The healers do what they can, but their understanding is limited. Many turn to faith, trusting in prayer where medicine fails. Among the Crusaders, folk remedies abound. Soldiers carry charms, small tokens believed to ward off sickness. Simple rituals are observed, meals prepared with certain herbs, amulets worn against the evil eye. The line between superstition and medicine is thin, often blurred by desperation. The monks and priests offer comfort through prayer and ritual. The holy water is sprinkled upon the sick, relics placed upon their chests. The words of Scripture are read aloud, a balm for the soul, if not the body. In the face of suffering, faith provides strength where medicine cannot. Through all these trials, the Crusaders endure. They learn to live with pain, to accept the scars of battle and illness. Each man carries the marks of his journey, a testament to the harsh realities of life in the Holy Land. As the crusade stretches on, experience becomes the best teacher for those tasked with healing the sick and wounded. What little formal knowledge exists is drawn from ancient texts, works of Galen and Hippocrates, filtered through centuries of translation and reinterpretation. These writings offer guidance, but much is left to trial and error. The surgeons and physicians of the Crusader states must learn through practice, often at great cost. One lesson learned swiftly is the importance of cleanliness, though the concept is imperfectly understood. Water is scarce and often tainted. Boiling bandages and instruments is practiced by a few, though more from habit than from a true grasp of infection. Simple precautions, such as washing hands before tending wounds, are rare. As a result, many injuries that seem minor at first quickly worsen, the unseen hand of disease turning cuts to death sentences. When illness strikes the ranks, entire companies can be laid low. Quarantine is attempted, with the sick isolated in separate quarters, but the close quarters of camp life often render such efforts futile. The spread of sickness moves faster than the healers can respond. Fear runs high when new fevers appear. Rumors swirl, and blame is often cast upon local populations or rival factions. The remedies employed vary greatly. Some rely on herbal mixtures, teas brewed from local plants with supposed healing properties. Others turn to more exotic treatments, powders and tinctures brought from the East, purchased at great expense from Arab physicians whose knowledge is often superior to that of their Christian counterparts. Such remedies are both sought after and viewed with suspicion, the tension between need and mistrust evident in every exchange. Among the Crusaders, tales of miraculous recovery circulate. A knight struck down by fever returned to health after a relic was placed upon his brow. A common soldier saved from a festering wound by the prayers of a pious monk. Whether these stories hold truth or serve simply to sustain hope, they are shared eagerly around the campfires, offering comfort to the weary. For those too far gone, the final rites are performed with solemn dignity. The priests move among the dying, offering absolution, the promise of salvation for those who have fought and suffered in the service of God. Death is a constant companion on the march, its presence accepted as part of the journey. In the wake of battle, the scene is one of grim necessity. The wounded are tended as best as circumstances allow. Limbs are bound, wounds stitched, blood staunched. Cries of pain echo through the makeshift infirmaries. The work is unending, the healers moving from one patient to the next until exhaustion overtakes them. The knights bear their injuries with stoic pride. Scars are marks of honor, proof of service. Many return to the field before their wounds have fully healed, driven by duty or the desire to prove their strength. Among the common soldiers, the burden is heavier. With fewer resources and less attention from the healers, many simply endure, hoping to recover through sheer will. Through all these hardships, the spirit of the Crusaders endures. They adapt, learning to live with pain, to press on despite injury or sickness. The bonds of comradeship strengthen in the face of adversity. Those who survive carry the lessons of suffering, their resolve tempered by experience. As the march toward Jerusalem continues, the need for healing remains ever present. New battles await, new wounds to be tended. The crude practices of Crusader medicine will again be tested, shaped by the harsh realities of life in the Holy Land. Yet through faith, determination, and the stubborn will to endure, the Crusaders press forward, their eyes fixed upon a distant goal. Chapter 12. Banquet at a Crusader Lord's Court. Feast amidst fear in the heart of the Crusader states. Within the stone halls of fortified castles, life carries on even in times of uncertainty. The lords who hold these lands, surrounded by enemies and distant from their European homelands, must maintain not only their defenses but also their courts. Among the weight of war and politics, the ritual of the feast offers a moment of respite, a fragile sense of order amidst the chaos. To dine in the hall of a Crusader lord is to witness a delicate balance of ceremony and tension. The great chamber is austere, its walls hung with faded banners and shields marked by battle. Torches flicker in iron sconces, casting long shadows across rough-hewn beams. The air carries the scent of roasting meat, spiced wine, and the ever-present hint of damp stone. Guests arrive with care, each aware of the dangers that linger beyond the castle walls and, at times, within them. Knights in worn mail and noblemen in fine but travel-stained garments gather at long wooden tables. Their faces bear the marks of long campaigns, of losses suffered and victories earned. Beneath the surface of polite conversation lies a current of suspicion. Alliances are fragile, trust hard-won. The feast begins with prayer, a solemn invocation led by the household priest. Plates of bread and bowls of olives appear first, followed by platters of roasted fowl and venison, the spoils of recent hunts. Spices from the east, traded at great cost, flavor the dishes, a reminder of the strange and distant land in which these men now dwell. Wine flows freely, though caution tempers its consumption. The lords know well that loose tongues can bring ruin, that a careless word might spark a feud or expose a hidden plot. Conversations move in measured tones, veiled references to shifting alliances, to the ever-present threat of betrayal. Among the gathered guests, emissaries from other Crusader states and local powers share the table. Their presence is both necessary and dangerous. Deals are struck over the clink of goblets, rivalries masked by forced smiles. The politics of survival unfold with each course, each carefully chosen word. Entertainment accompanies the meal, though subdued. A minstrel plucks at a lute, his voice low and mournful. A troupe of dancers, veiled and silent, performs before the high table. These moments of levity do little to dispel the undercurrent unease. The lords and their retainers remain watchful, eyes flickering to the entrances, to the movements of servants. The servants themselves, drawn from local populations and distant lands, move with practiced discretion. They know that a single mistake, a dropped dish or overheard whisper, can bring swift punishment. Their presence is both necessary and invisible, part of the complex ritual that sustains the fragile life of the court. As the feast progresses, talk turns to matters of war. Reports from scouts, rumors of enemy movements, the status of distant garrisons. The lords exchange information carefully, weighing each word. In this hall, knowledge is as valuable as gold, and secrets can tip the balance of power. Beneath the formality, personal grief and longing linger. Many of those present have left families behind in Europe, uncertain if they will ever return. Letters arrive sporadically, bearing news of births, of deaths, of estates lost or held. The distance from home is keenly felt, especially in the quiet moments between the clatter of dishes and the strains of music. Yet the feast serves its purpose. It reaffirms bonds, however tenuous. It displays the strength of the host, the wealth that still supports his cause. In a land where the future is uncertain, such displays are as much a part of survival as sword and shield. As the evening deepens, the hall grows quieter. Conversations fade to murmurs, the weariness of long campaigns settling over the gathering. The lords and their retinues retire to their chambers, each carrying with them the knowledge that beyond these stone walls, danger waits in the shadows. End of segment 1, 5,000 characters. As the embers in the great hearth burn low, the remnants of the feast are cleared away. Servants move swiftly, gathering platters, refilling goblets for those who linger. The air grows cooler, the heavy stone walls holding the night's chill. The lord of the castle, seated at the high table, surveys the hall with a practiced eye. Every guest, every glance, every word exchanged has been noted. In this world, knowledge is as vital as the strength of arms. In the quieter corners of the hall, smaller groups gather. Trusted allies speak in hushed tones, plotting the movements of men and coin. Ambassadors linger, hoping to extract some advantage before the night's end. Suspicion remains constant, even among supposed friends. In these uncertain times, today's ally may become tomorrow's rival. For the knights and men-at-arms, the feast provides a rare respite from the rigors of campaign life. They share stories of battles fought, of narrow escapes and comrades lost. Laughter rings out, though tinged with sorrow. The bonds of brotherhood are forged in such moments, a counterbalance to the grim duties that await beyond the castle gates. Among the younger knights, ambition burns brightly. They watch the lords and seasoned warriors with careful eyes, eager to learn to advance their standing. A single act of bravery, a well-timed word, could open new paths. Yet they tread carefully, aware that the politics of the court are as perilous as any battlefield. The servants continue their work, unseen but ever present. They hear much, though they speak little. Their knowledge, if shared unwisely, could cost them dearly. For now, they move quietly, attending to their tasks, their thoughts their own. In the chapel adjoining the hall, a few pious souls gather in prayer, seeking guidance, offering thanks for survival thus far. The flickering candlelight casts long shadows upon worn stone, the soft murmur of voices a gentle counterpoint to the lingering noise of the feast. As the hour grows late, guests begin to depart. Cloaks are drawn tight against the night air. Retinues assemble, torches flaring to light the way through darkened corridors. Guards watch from the battlements, their eyes scanning the silent countryside. Even within the safety of the castle, vigilance cannot wane. The Lord himself withdraws to his private chambers, accompanied by his closest advisors. There, the true business of rule resumes. Reports are reviewed, plans laid for the coming days. The feast has served its purpose, but the work of leadership continues without pause. In the stables, horses are readied for early morning departures. Messengers prepare to ride, carrying news and commands to distant outposts. The fragile network that holds the Crusader states together must be maintained, its threads woven anew with each passing day. For the common folk of the castle, life resumes its usual pace. The kitchens are scrubbed clean, the great hall swept of debris. Sleep comes briefly, for dawn will bring fresh duties. The rhythms of this world are unchanging, shaped by necessity and survival. As the castle settles into uneasy quiet, the memory of the feast lingers. It stands as a momentary reprieve, a reminder of the lives left behind, of the civility that endures amidst the harshness of war. Yet beneath the surface, the tensions remain, the unspoken fears that shape every decision. In the days to come, new challenges will arise, new dangers to face. The lords of the Crusader states understand this well. Each feast, each gathering, is but a brief interlude in the long struggle for survival in a land where peace is fragile and the shadow of conflict ever present. Chapter 13. The Fall of Jerusalem, Faith, Fury, and Massacre. At last, the Crusader host draws near to Jerusalem. The journey has been long and bitter, filled with suffering and loss. For those who still march beneath tattered banners, the sight of the city upon its hill stirs deep emotion. There it stands, its golden dome gleaming in the sun, ancient walls encircling a place long dreamed of, fought for, prayed over. Jerusalem, the heart of the Holy Land, the goal of every step taken since the Crusade began. Word spreads quickly through the camp. Plans are laid, leaders summoned to council. The army is weary, reduced in numbers, yet their resolve is iron. No thought of retreat remains. For many, this will be the final battle, the moment that will define their lives and deaths. The siege must succeed, for there can be no turning back. The city itself is prepared. Its defenders, knowing what is to come, stand ready upon the battlements. Supplies have been gathered, weapons readied. Within the narrow streets and sacred spaces, the people pray and wait. Fear mingles with determination. The walls that have stood for centuries must now hold against a force driven by both faith and desperation. Outside the city, the Crusaders set to work. Siege engines are constructed once more, great towers and battering rams taking shape beneath the summer sun. The land offers little wood, but every scrap is gathered, stripped from nearby groves, broken from abandoned buildings. Sweat and labor fuel the preparations, each man driven by the nearness of their prize. The days grow hot, the air thick with dust. Water is scarce, rations dwindle, yet none falter. Among the ranks, the hope of victory burns bright. Priests move among the soldiers, blessing weapons, leading prayers. Relics are displayed, holy banners unfurled. The certainty of divine favor steals the heart. This is no longer a mere campaign. It is a sacred duty. As the siege engines roll toward the walls, the first clashes erupt. Arrows fly from the ramparts, stones hurled down upon the attackers. The Crusaders respond with unrelenting force, pushing their machines forward, shielding themselves beneath wooden mantlets. Each day sees fresh assaults. Each night the wounded are tended, and the dead buried beneath makeshift cairns. Within the city, fear grows, supplies run thin, the heat and dust take their toll. The defenders fight bravely, yet they know that the enemy is determined, unyielding. Word of the Crusaders' resolve spreads through the streets, carried by frightened whispers. The walls hold, but for how long? Among the Crusader lords, tensions simmer beneath the surface. Each seeks to claim glory in the coming assault, to be the first to breach the ancient gates. Alliances shift, plans are dated, yet when the moment comes, all unite in purpose. The attack is ordered, every man called to arms. On the appointed day, the horns of the crusade sounded dawn. The assault begins with ferocious intensity. Siege towers inch toward the walls, their sides bristling with archers. Battering rams pound against the gates. Ladders rise beneath a hail of arrows. The clash of steel, the roar of voices, fills the air. For hours the battle rages. The defenders fight with desperate courage, but the weight of the assault cannot be denied. Slowly, the Crusaders gain ground. A breach is forced, a gate splintered. Knights surge through, blades drawn. The streets of Jerusalem become a battleground, every corner contested. Within the city, chaos reigns. The defenders fall back, seeking to regroup. Civilians flee in terror. The sound of combat echoes through the holy places, through the market squares and winding alleys. No part of the city is untouched by the fury of the assault. For the Crusaders, this is the moment they have long awaited. The culmination of years of suffering and sacrifice. They fight with a fervor born of faith, of vengeance for comrades lost, of the deep desire to see Jerusalem claimed in the name of Christendom. As the sun sinks toward the horizon, the city's fate hangs in the balance. Blood stains the stones, yet the Crusaders press on, their goal nearly within reach. The fall of Jerusalem draws near, a moment that will be remembered in both glory and sorrow. As night falls upon Jerusalem, the fighting does not cease. Within the narrow streets and courtyards, Crusaders and defenders clash beneath the flickering light of torches. The city that once stood as a beacon of faith and culture now trembles under the weight of steel and fury. Every step forward is paid in blood. The weary soldiers of the crusade, driven by years of hardship and the promise of salvation, press onward with grim determination. The defenders, though outnumbered and exhausted, fight with unwavering courage. From the towers and rooftops, arrows rain down upon the attackers. In the twisting alleys, ambushes are laid. Yet the tide of the Crusaders is relentless. Slowly, block by block, they seize control. Resistance is met with no mercy, for the passions of holy war burn hot. Within the sacred spaces of the city, violence intrudes. The great mosques and churches witness scenes of desperation and despair. The defenders seek refuge where they can, the cries of the innocent mingling with the clash of arms. The Crusaders, consumed by the fury of battle, show little restraint. Years of suffering, of loss, of longing for this very moment erupt in a storm of violence. By dawn, much of the city lies in Crusader hands. The remaining defenders are hunted through the ruins. The streets run red, the air thick with the scent of fire and blood. Survivors cower where they can, their fates uncertain. Some are spared, ransomed, or enslaved, while others meet a darker end. The rules of war offer little protection in the madness of conquest. Among the Crusader leaders, the mood is mixed. Victory has been achieved, the holy city reclaimed, yet the cost is great. The scale of the massacre, the destruction wrought, casts a shadow over the triumph. Priests lead processions through the streets, chanting prayers of thanksgiving even as the dead lie unburied. The city is both a prize and a tomb. In the days that follow, order is slowly restored. The Crusader lords divide the city, establishing control. Loot is gathered, fortunes made and lost. The survivors of the local population are gathered, their future determined by the whims of their new rulers. Some are spared, others driven out. The wounds of the city, both visible and unseen, will take generations to heal. To the common soldiers, the capture of Jerusalem is both an end and a beginning. Many had dreamed of this moment through long years of hardship. Now, with the city taken, they must decide their next path. Some choose to remain, staking their claims in the new kingdom. Others, their vows fulfilled, prepare to return home, though few will ever truly leave behind the memories of this place. The fall of Jerusalem resonates far beyond its walls. News spreads quickly across the known world. In the courts of Europe, the victory is celebrated with great fervor. In the Muslim world, the loss stirs outrage and the call for renewed struggle. The crusade, once thought to be nearing its conclusion, is now understood to be but one chapter in a larger, ongoing conflict. Among the Crusaders themselves, reflection comes slowly. The euphoria of victory fades, leaving behind the grim reality of what has been done. The holy city stands scarred, its people forever changed. The soldiers who fought their way through its streets carry the weight of that memory, etched upon their hearts. As the sun sets once more over Jerusalem, casting long shadows across blood-stained stones, the Crusaders gather in the great churches to offer prayers. Their voices rise in solemn chorus, giving thanks for triumph. seeking forgiveness for the sins of war. The city, ancient and eternal, bears witness to their faith and their folly alike. Chapter 14. Returning Home. The broken survivors of the Crusades, with Jerusalem now in Crusader hands. The long campaign draws to a close for many of those who first answered the call to arms. The holy city has been claimed, vows have been fulfilled, and the promise of absolution secured. Yet the path home is no simple matter. The road that led these men across continents is now littered with scars, and the journey back will test them once again. For the Crusaders, the decision to return home is fraught with uncertainty. Some choose to remain in the new kingdom, enticed by offers of land, titles, or the hope of a fresh start. But for others, the call of home grows strong. Letters from distant family, the memory of fields left untended, of loved ones unseen for years, weigh heavily on their minds. Preparing for the journey is a task in itself. The wealth of Jerusalem, whether won through battle or granted by grateful lords, must be secured. Companions are gathered, routes planned, caravans form, seeking the safety of numbers. The road to Europe winds through lands still unsettled, where danger waits in shadowed passes and restless enemies prowl the edges of fragile peace. The march begins with wary hearts. The Crusaders who set out now are no longer the eager soldiers of old. Their faces are marked by hardship, their bodies scarred. Illness lingers, wounds half healed. The weight of experience bears down on them, memories of friends lost, of horrors witnessed. Yet they press on, driven by the hope of reaching familiar shores. The first leg of the journey retraces old paths. Through the battered cities of the Levant, across the sun-scorched plains of Asia Minor, the Crusaders move slowly. Supplies are scarce, the land unable to support the stream of returning warriors. Hunger once more becomes a constant companion. Water is rationed, each ship a treasure. As the caravan passes through villages and strongholds, the reaction is mixed. Some locals welcome the Crusaders, hoping to profit from their needs. Others look on with suspicion or fear, remembering the violence of the campaign. The Crusaders themselves move with caution. They know that alliances are fleeting, that old enemies may now wear new faces. Disease remains a threat. The wounds of war weaken the body, leaving it vulnerable. Camps are struck quickly, the sick given what little care can be spared. Graves are dug by the roadside, simple markers standing as mute testimony to those who fall on the road home. Among the ranks, tales of survival are shared. Each man carries his own story, shaped by battle, loss, and endurance. Bonds formed during the crusade hold fast, comrades supporting one another through the trials of the return. Yet beneath this camaraderie lies a deeper weariness, an unspoken understanding that life will never be the same. For those who reach Constantinople, the sight of its towering walls brings both relief and dread. Passage westward must be secured, ships chartered, permissions granted. The Byzantine court remains wary of the Crusaders, its welcome tempered by political need. Deals are struck, coin changes hands. The wait for passage drags on, testing patience and resolve. As the sea journey begins, new dangers arise. Storms batter the fragile vessels. Illness spreads in the cramped holds. Pirates haunt the trade routes, seeking to prey upon weary travelers. Each day brings new trials, but the thought of home spurs the Crusaders onward. At last, for those who survive, the shores of Europe appear on the horizon. The sight stirs a flood of emotion, relief mingled with uncertainty. Years have passed since they first departed. Much has changed, both in the lands they left behind and within their own hearts. The return home is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter. The Crusaders who step ashore are no longer the men they once were. They carry the weight of their experiences, the marks of a long and bitter war, the memories of both faith and fury. The Crusaders who return to Europe find themselves strangers in familiar lands. Villages have changed, faces grown older. Children once small now stand as young men and women. The long years of absence have left their mark on families and communities alike. For some, homecomings are joyful, long awaited. For others, they are tinged with sorrow, loved ones lost to time and fate. The tales carried back from the Holy Land spread quickly. In the halls of nobles, in the markets of towns, stories of battles fought and hardships endured capture the imagination. Yet behind the grand retellings lies a harsher truth. Many who return are broken in body and spirit. Scars both seen and unseen remain. The memories of bloodshed, of siege and slaughter, linger in the quiet moments of the night. Among the knights, some struggle to reclaim their former place. Land once theirs may now be held by others. Wealth promised by the crusade often fails to materialize. The cost of years away weighs heavily. Debts incurred for arms and supplies must be repaid. The burden of expectation presses upon them, even as they grapple with the realities of their return. For common soldiers, life offers fewer rewards. Many drift from town to town, seeking work, a place to belong. Some find solace in the company of fellow veterans, bound by shared experience. Others turn inward, their silence a testament to all they have seen. The camaraderie of the crusade is a memory, its bonds stretched thin by distance and the demands of daily survival. The church welcomes the crusaders, granting absolution, offering praise for their deeds. Yet even within the sanctuaries of faith, a sense of disquiet lingers. The acts committed in Jerusalem, the fury of conquest weigh upon many. Confession brings some relief, but not all wounds can be healed with words. In the larger cities, the influence of returning crusaders reshapes society. New fashions appear, inspired by the East. Stories of distant lands spark curiosity. Trade routes expand. Yet alongside this cultural exchange comes tension. The tales of violence, of betrayal and hardship cast a shadow over the romantic image of the crusade. Among the lords of Europe, political landscapes shift. Alliances formed in the Holy Land ripple outward, altering power dynamics. Rivalries forged on distant battlefields find new expression in the courts and councils of home. The crusade, though fought far from European shores, leaves an indelible mark upon its rulers. For the survivors themselves, the struggle to adapt is ongoing. Some embrace the life they left behind, finding comfort in familiar routines. Others remain restless, unable to settle. The road calls to them still, the memory of purpose and comradeship stronger than the pull of hearth and home. A few choose to return to the East, seeking new campaigns, new causes to serve. As the years pass, the memory of the crusade begins to fade from public consciousness. New conflicts arise, new stories capture attention. Yet for those who marched, who fought, who endured, the experience remains ever present. The sights, the sounds, the trials of that distant land are carried with them always. In the quiet of twilight, by the glow of a fading hearth, an old soldier may sit and remember. The faces of fallen friends, the banners fluttering in the desert wind, the clash of swords beneath ancient walls. These are the memories that endure, the legacy of a long and bitter journey. The crusaders who return are forever changed. Their path has led them through faith and fury, through glory and grief. They stand as witnesses to a chapter of history written in blood and belief, their lives forever shaped by the crusade. And so the long journey of the crusader comes to an end. A path that began with a call to arms with vows made beneath the vaulted ceilings and great cathedrals, has wound its way through distant lands, through hardship, battle, and loss. The Crusades, a movement born of faith and ambition, have left a mark not only upon the Holy Land, but upon all who took part. For those who marched beneath the cross, life would never again be simple. The experiences they carry back shaped their thoughts, their beliefs, their very way of being. The bonds forged in fire remained strong, though the world to which they returned often seemed strange and changed. The memories of distant sieges, of ghost towns and cursed places, of comrades lost and victories won, echoed through their lives. The Crusader states that arose from their conquests stood for a time, fragile and embattled, their existence a testament to both the courage and the flaws of those who built them. Through strange alliances and hard-earned diplomacy, these outposts of Christendom endured, though always under threat. In their fortresses and courts, the legacy of the Crusades continued, shaping the lives of those who followed. The Templars and other military orders remained vigilant, their discipline and purpose alight in uncertain times. Their wealth and influence grew, as did the legends surrounding them. Stories of lost treasure, of secret knowledge spread far and wide, capturing imaginations for generations to come. Yet even these mighty orders would one day face their own trials, as the tides of politics and history shifted once again. And Jerusalem, the city at the heart of it all, stood scarred but unbroken, its stones steeped in the blood and prayers of countless souls. For the victors, it was a prize hard won, yet one that brought as much sorrow as triumph. The memories of the siege, of what was gained and what was lost, lingered long after banners had faded and swords had rusted. As you reflect upon this chapter of history, upon the lives of those who lived it, perhaps you can sense the rhythm of their days. The constant struggle, the fragile hopes. Imagine the weary tread of feet upon dusty roads. The murmur of prayers beneath a starlit sky, the weight of armor, the grip of a sword. The Crusades were a time of faith and folly, of courage and cruelty, a tapestry woven from the countless threads of human experience. And now, in the quiet of this moment, you can let those distant echoes fade. The battles have been fought, the banners furled, the march is over. Rest now, and let the peace of the present soothe the memories of the past. The world of the Crusaders lies far behind, their struggles a story to be remembered, learned from, and gently set aside. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you have enjoyed this quiet exploration of history, consider leaving a comment, sharing your thoughts. And if you'd like to travel further through the winding paths of the past, do subscribe to this channel. The Drowsy Historian, for more stories to calm the mind and ease you into restful sleep. Until next time, sleep well. And so we bring our journey through the Crusades to a gentle close. The battles, the marshes, the hardships of those long ago soldiers now drift quietly into memory. You can leave those heavy swords and dusty boots behind and simply rest now. If you enjoyed this little historical wander, why not leave a comment below? I do love hearing what you think, or what dreams these old stories might have stirred. And if you'd like to keep traveling through the calmer corners of history with me, do give this video a like, share it with a fellow night owl, and of course, subscribe to the channel. That's the Drowsy Historian, in case your eyelids are getting heavy.